All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. This is the Justice for All podcast with Randall and Gage and special guest commentator Matt. And this is the Conspiracy podcast, and this is a special podcast, Gage, because as you know, this is going to be our longest podcast, and we thought we'd treat the people to this because the conspiracy theories is always fun for people to think about. Open up your mind a little bit, even if you don't believe the shit. You know, we've talked about a lot of stuff with this extended podcast here, whether, it's like government, chess, freaking all these elites, and all the way to tech and all that good stuff. During our last segment, we left off we were talking about extraterrestrial things, and maybe the possibility of aliens and interdimensional, travel, those kind of things. That's kind of where we left off. So is there anything else you guys like to add to that? Well, I'll say first, like I said, there's not really a lot of studies as far as I just don't think, like we were saying before, there's a lot going on under the sea and stuff, and there's so much in this world we don't know. And we just started exploring space and all of that, and I think it's very interesting what we're going to come out with here at the end of all of this, whether we find answers in space, whether there's aliens or all this stuff, and so it's just interesting to think about.
Yeah, I mean, the more we start to explore, the more answers we'll get eventually. If there's a planet that supports life or whatever, and even if we... Well, the thing is, I don't know how we'd ever discover if there was life, like intelligent life, because like the planets that we've looked at are so far away, and so unless they're, the concept of aliens has always been like they're a master superior race that has all this technology and all this other stuff, but it's like, what if they're just if they do exist, what if they're just the same as us and we'll never see each other because they're light years upon light years away.
Exactly. And I think that, what I was saying earlier too, they could be, here, and we just can't see them by the fact that, we don't have access to dimensions that they might. Who knows, man? Who knows these things? We might have already discovered them, and they might have us, who knows? There's, again, that kind of goes back to the things like what all does the government keep from us? And, really, the government is a conspiracy in itself, honestly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of, government conspiracies, there's a couple, too, not just extraterrestrial things. But first, before we dive in, a new topic, Matt, did you want to say anything? We gotta be, kind of be more fair. I don't want to dominate the podcast or anything like that, for sure. So.
Oh no, it's fine. You're good. Yeah. I think we covered most of the alien thing. I mean, it's hard to really say what's actually going on. I mean, it could be a government conspiracy. We could have aliens with us right now, or it could just be hiding the fact that extraterrestrials exist elsewhere but haven't even come here yet. Or, I mean, there's really, I guess, countless possibilities of what could actually be the truth. But
yeah,
that's where the conspiracy theories
start
to come in.
Exactly. And you know what? They are responsible for the pyramids after all. We gotta take that.
They are actually, yeah.
What was
Isn't
that?
it like they were in line with some star formation or something that it was some crazy ridiculous number, within an inch.
Yeah.
All the pyramids were made to align with star constellations.
Yeah.
But here's
crazy.
the thing. I heard this. What if, through how organisms and things like that go extinct or whatever, how most species. Here's a theory. What if we, as people before, built the pyramids and we did all this awesome shit, we already did the space travel and all that, but a part of us went extinct or whatever, except for few or somehow we came back as a species dumber, and then or we just forgot our past, That's another one I've heard, but that's kind of far out there, I don't know, like, oh shit, how did we get these? What the fuck? I think it's more likely that we just built them, and just remembered. I don't know. That's what I've heard.
I mean, I feel like we're getting dumber as it is.
Yeah, and like we and like in the past we've already reached that point, and it's like the elite like back then just didn't mate, and only the dumb fucks mated, and now we're here. Do you know what I'm saying? And then like that's the theory, and now it's kind of worked its way back up, kind of like a chart, but I don't know. That's dumb too. I don't believe in that. For me, I just think honestly, I don't know about the alien thing, man. That's a good thing to think about. But I honestly thought it's just slaves, and the ancient Egyptians were just smart as fuck, man. Like I'd say they're just smart people. I don't know.
Yeah, they definitely.
I think that star thing is just a coincidence. I don't know, but it's an interesting.
Well, they did build it to actually
do that.
To align with the stars.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But like, because they did that, I mean, they discovered how to, keep a dead body from decaying for thousands of years, and
yeah, that's something. I wonder when it they transitioned to okay, we just gotta bury people,
Well,
that was just mainly for pharaohs and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, it transitioned into people who had money or the royal family and all that stuff as well. Right. They didn't get pyramids and stuff, but eventually, I mean, as the population increased, they started because they built the pyramids or whatever, and then as more and more pharaohs came along, they just started burying them in the Valley of the Kings, still making mummies out of them. But
could you imagine regular people dying in just little pyramids all over Egypt? It's just can you imagine that? Instead of tombstones and shit, you just have little pyramids. No, that's weird. Okay, so back to the government thing, right? We kind of want to back to we were saying the aliens and all that. Back to the government. What are they hiding? Another thing, and it's kind of funny to me. The government's been involved with a lot of these conspiracies, right? I mean, it's not, but more times than not, So there's a few other government ones. A more famous one that people are skeptical about is the John F. Kennedy assassination. I know you guys explicitly really wanted to talk about this one. So what Matt or Gage, would you guys like to take the lead here? Or would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, for me, this is probably the conspiracy theory that I buy into the most, just because the government story is complete shit, honestly, and it's impossible, because their story basically is that Lee Harvey Oswald was in the 11th floor of that Texas library, and he shot JFK with a bolt-action rifle. He got 3 shots off in 5 seconds, which is impossible, because with a bolt-action rifle, you literally have to shoot, cock it back again, take out the shell, put in another shell, cock it forward, and, pull the trigger.
Lee Harvey Oswald, wasn't he a professional sniper though, too, for the military or something?
Not that I know of.
I thought he was an ex-sniper.
Possible to do, and
but yeah, I know what you're saying, but
getting 3 shots off in 5 seconds with a bolt-action rifle is impossible, and to be that accurate.
Yeah, from the 11th story, and you realize.
Yeah.
But we did miss. So.
Yeah, to be that accurate on top of it, it's impossible. And there are also the eyewitness accounts of somebody on the grassy knoll down below, actually across the street, opened fire and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it says Lee Harvey Oswald was an American ex-Marine and Marxist who assassinated JFK. So yeah, he had very elite sniper capabilities, but it doesn't make sense.
It's still impossible.
Yeah,
because they've tested that theory.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree with that. I think there's a lot to the contrary, as far as and also how his head and everything about this man. like how his head was. There's shots in the back of his head that
and you see him like gripping his neck right before he got shot.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's a few things like from the driver to like how all of his autopsy thing. The guy that performed his autopsy has never done an autopsy before, and this is arguably the most important autopsy in American history. Another thing, the driver, they have like, first of all, the Secret Service, there weren't as many as planned. And then from there, the driver, they have a thing where I think it's like protocol, duck the president down, drive off fast. The driver didn't do that until after the third shot. He didn't, like step on it until after, after the fact. So that's kind of fishy.
Yeah.
A lot of these people in the car, they had relations to people, that Kennedy wasn't the best acquaintances with as well. There's like a lot of links to like things like that. And then,
well, in my opinion, it was either the mafia or the CIA themselves that wanted him dead. Because I know the mafia, like, he had relations with them before he got elected. And then after he got elected, he fell into the same trap of, the whole thing in Washington falling into the swamp, and then he started cracking down on the mafia, and they were basically pissed off at him. So I could see, those relations were definitely tense. So they would probably do that, and just the fact that you look at Lee Harvey Oswald, he was the fall guy for that. They said that he did it, and then a couple days later he got shot, like before his trial and all that, by Jack Ruby. So it's like, they're blaming him for doing it, and then they kill the fall guy. It just seems all too coincidental.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that just because of all everything, clearly it had to have been covered up, right? Like we're getting this not the truth.
Yeah.
So that makes me leads me to believe maybe it could be our own government, as bad as it is to say, but.
No, and I think we can use this as well. And JFK gave a speech about secret societies and how the government needs to be transparent in things, and these intelligence agencies and other people. Oh man, you can't do that. They do not like the whistleblowers, do they? But let me. I pulled up that speech, guys. If you want, I can play a little bit of it, and we can kind of talk about that too. Maybe this led to it, but this is the conspiracy. And this speech, this is the main guy, and this kind of thing's happening. And this goes back to the Pizzagate thing too. We were talking about earlier and all of that. Not just like I said, molesting children, maybe. But if I was a gambling man, I'd put all chips in on, there's secret shit going on, and our government is like, there's a little pack there, and they don't want us to know, But here's that speech, if you guys don't mind. I'll play a little bit of that.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate very much your generous invitation to be here tonight. You bear heavy responsibilities these days, and the article I read some time ago reminded me of how particularly heavily the burdens of present-day events bear upon your profession. You may remember that in 1851, New York Herald Tribune, under the sponsorship and publishing of Horace Greeley, employed as its London correspondent an obscure journalist by the name of Karl Marx. We are told that foreign correspondent Marx, stone broke, and with a family ill and undernourished, constantly appealed to Greeley and managing editor Charles Dana for an increase in his munificent salary of $5 per installment, a salary which he and Engels ungratefully labeled as the lousiest petty bourgeois cheating. But when all his financial appeals were refused, Marx looked around for other means of livelihood and fame, eventually terminating his relationship with the Tribune and devoting his talents full-time to the cause that would bequeath to the world the seeds of Leninism, Stalinism, revolute not my sentiments in the press, except from a few Republicans. In America, with regularity.
All right, well, hold on. So in the speech, I didn't want to, keep it's like a 19-minute thing. So he was talking about, getting money away from, some certain Karl Marx and that, like as far as like some example he was giving, but really his point was saying like, so this is happening, and we just got to be transparent with the people. And a lot of people think that the speech here that he gave, that's kind of what led to his downfall. That they warned him, But let's see if I can.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
Okay, so this is like the main part. This is where I was trying to find it. So hold on. I'm sorry, guys.
And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight.
All right, so this is about a 5-minute thing, but oh my God, that is crazy, isn't it? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
He's saying, this is in 1961. This man is saying, all right, our government, pretty much, he is pretty much laying out there, there's some shit going on. I want to reveal it. We need to reveal this. Let's get this revealed. There's no secrets to the people. They need to know. And that right there, gentlemen, is what killed Kennedy. And I don't think it was Lee Harvey Oswald. I think there's some other shit happening. And it was all planned. It's a planned thing. And our government does this.
And the thing is, too, so Trump released the JFK files last year to the public for the whole entire report on JFK's assassination and stuff. And there's some interesting findings in it. I don't know if you guys have read it or not. So the main takeaways from it, the first being that there was a CIA and mafia plot to assassinate Castro, which first shows that the CIA and the mafia were working together on something. So it's not inconceivable to believe either one of them assassinated JFK in the end. Another finding was that the FBI got a death threat on Oswald the day before his murder. So the FBI knew that somebody was trying to go after him before he was murdered.
That's an easy ignore because he can't talk. Fuck.
Yeah, and the biggest takeaway is that the Soviets in Russia said that the killing was an organized conspiracy. And it says,
the Russians did actually, Gage. The Russians do everything.
The Russians are saying, their quote was, according to our source, officials of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union believe there was some well-organized conspiracy on the part of the ultra-right in the United States to effect a coup. They seem convinced that the assassination was not the deed of one man, but that it arose out of a carefully planned campaign in which several people played a part.
Yeah. And then they want to play dumb about it.
And lastly, the CIA intercepted a call from Lee Harvey Oswald to the KGB. So he was working with the KGB on it, which is Russia's secret police.
Huh. Yeah.
So there's more than just him.
Well, yeah, that's interesting, man. I definitely think there's more going on. I think the government hides a lot of shit from us, man. And as bad, I mean, you got to think. This is coming from the people that preach world peace and we need to fix everything here. And then they can just turn around and bomb, a fucking area. And they got their guy, but they killed like 1,000 people. And then they can come out and be Mr. Presidential again. These are the same fuckers, man. That's what's scary. It's just insane that, like, and it's not even just the president we're talking about. We're talking about, all these interests and the elite. It comes back to these people that run this place, man. I don't know, man. It's scary to think about, but it is what happens. I don't know. And I think this is the most powerful man on the earth, in the world, arguably, telling us this shit is happening. We need to reveal it, and then he dies. And isn't that convenient, And it seems like whenever things happen and the government gets caught on their bullshit, people fucking die. And like I said, after that, this happens, we forget about. This happens, we forget about. Anyone who asks questions goes to jail or is dead, and then move on. It's like you can't. What do you do when people have this kind of amount of power to do these kind of things to people, man? But we're coming up to the end here of the part 4 of the Conspiracy Theory podcast. When we return, we'll get Matt's take on some more of this, and as well as continue on here. But this is the Justice for All podcast, part 4, Conspiracies. We'll be right back with part 5. Thanks, guys.